Hi there, I'm Kimberly Clark, and welcome to
Listen.
This is a series where I will be talking about different topics. Topics that are particularly interesting and important to me as a drag queen, as a feminist, and to the communities that I'm a part of. I'm going to make 3 initial videos. The first one, this video, being about gender. The second one being about consumerism and the beauty industry. And the third being about drag. After those initial videos, I'm going to invite other guests onto this show to talk even more about those issues and more issues. But I figured it would be really important and kind of helpful for me to kind of lay out some of my basic thoughts about these main topics. So this video is kind of an overview about my thoughts on gender. So what is gender and how is it different from sex? There are many ways to distinguish sex from gender, but most seem to describe the distinction as biology versus sociology, or nurture versus nature. In a 2011 paper on sex-specific data in clinical studies, the American Food and Drug Administration described gender as referring to a person's self-representation as male or female, or how that person is responded to by social institutions based on the individual's gender presentation. It continues to state, gender is rooted in biology and shaped by environment and experience. We often think of biological sex as happening in either one of 2 forms, male or female. This way of thinking is called a binary and disregards other biological representations of sex, such as intersex. We often think of gender as a binary as well. Similarly, these 2 distinctions leave out a plethora of other identities. Contemporary gender theorist Judith Butler further defines gender as something we do, or as performative. Butler says, "We act as if that being of a man or that being of a woman is actually an internal reality or something that is simply true about us, a fact about us. But actually, it's a phenomenon that is being produced all the time and reproduced all the time. So to say that gender is performative is to say that nobody really is a gender from the start." After you're born, your parents kind of decide to raise you in the way that our society has decided either boys or girls should be raised. And everything about your life, about the way you are told to talk, the way you're told to walk, the way you're told to eat, the things you're allowed to do, the things you aren't allowed to do, the things about your body and your life that you are told are assets versus things that you should be ashamed of, all of those things are different whether you're male or female. I think it's really important to use the word action when describing gender because I feel like it's not productive to talk about gender as something that is inherent and just is. Gender is something that we actively perform. Everyone. Now, I'm a drag queen, so it's really easy to see how much work I've put into all of this. I made my face shape look different by putting on makeup. I added all this hair. I'm wearing some boobs. I'm doing a lot of work to become this. Here's the thing. What I'm doing is no different than what you are doing in terms of it being active or passive. Whether you think it or not, you are doing a ton of work to represent your gender identity. Now, if you're a transgender person, a gender nonconforming person, or a genderqueer person, you have a complete understanding of the amount of work it takes for you to create the body that you desire to have for yourself. If you're a cisgender person, this might be a little tricky. You might look at a transgender person or a drag queen or someone that is operating outside of the gender binary and think, wow, they're really doing a lot. Like, I'm glad I don't have to do that much to be who I am. In reality, you're doing a lot too. You just aren't aware of it. Every single thing you do is a performance of your gender. When you wake up in the morning, your choice of what to do next is related to your gender. Do you brush your hair? Do you take a shower? Do you put on makeup? Do you put on clothes? What kind of clothes do you put on? Do you put on pants? Do you put on a skirt? Do you put on shoes? Do you put on sandals? Do you put on things that are cut in a kind of feminine way or things that are kind of shaped in a masculine way? All of these things are determined by how you were socialized as male or female. And just because they're things that feel comfortable to you does not mean that there's any less action required in executing them. It's really important to constantly be aware of how much effort you put in your gender identity and expression. When you kind of realize that everything we do, everything we say, everything we wear, the way we interact with each other, the kind of way our entire lives, jobs, careers, social structures, friends, relationships are all based on either fitting into male or female ends of the gender binary, suddenly you start to question, what does it mean to have to fit into these gender roles? What does it mean for me to be marketed to as a man or a woman? What does it mean that different companies, people, political parties are taking advantage of the different ways that we are socialized to be as either male or female? Suddenly the kind of thing that we felt very solid on starts to feel a little bit shaky. Basically, gender is not real. It's just an act. It's just a role that we are all taught to enact, that we are prepared for by our families, by our entire societies at large, and we are told to perform these acts. And we are told that if we are not performing them well, then we are not valid. A lot of homophobia is based in gender discrimination. People don't often hate gay people or young gay people because they are thinking about the types of sex they're interested in. They're really thinking about them in terms of being not man enough or not girly enough. You see a tomboy, a butch girl, and you're like, oh, that's a lesbian because she's acting butch. But in reality, you're not really thinking about her sexuality. You're responding to her gender identity and the fact that she's not acting the way that a girl should act. Same with a boy. You see a very effeminate boy and you're like, oh, he's gay. Well, you're not really thinking about his sexuality, are you? You're really responding to his gender representation. And those are different things. Unfortunately, this is kind of the explanation for a lot of violence against trans people and those that are gender nonconforming. There are transphobic people in this world that are so cemented in their gender identity that when they see someone kind of messing with that or operating in a way that society has told them is wrong, it kind of forcibly undermines their own foundation and is so uncomfortable to them, so horrifying that violence is the only answer. For example, in January 2015, Michelle Vash Payne, a 33-year-old trans woman of color, was stabbed to death by her boyfriend in Van Nuys, California. Her boyfriend then proceeded to light the apartment on fire. Now, this person didn't want to just kill this person. This person wanted to destroy this person's body. The perpetrator of that act wanted to make the victim's identity disappear. This is why the distinction hate crime is really important. It's not motivated out of pure aggression or anger. It's motivated by something deeper. It's more about seeing an identity, seeing a way of being that is so deeply, illogically infuriating to you that you perpetuate this horrifying act of violence. And as hard as it is to kind of be reminded of all these horrifying statistics, like for example, the fact that 50% of all transgender women have reported experiencing some form of sexual violence or abuse. As horrifying as it is to confront those facts, it's really important to constantly be aware of them, to realize the struggles that transgender people face and the importance of fighting for gender rights. The term gender rights is really key here. I'm not saying gay rights, transgender rights, or rights for genderqueer or queer people. And there's a really important reason why. Gender rights are human rights. When you fight for the rights of trans people, women, and anybody else, everyone benefits. As I said, we all have a gender identity. We all perform it based on the narrow constraints of what it means to be male or female in our society. Once you start encouraging, supporting, and legally backing people to have varying gender identities and expressions, basically saying that it doesn't matter how you act based on the way you were socialized or the way that society thinks you should be, suddenly we all get a little bit more free. Once trans people are able to hold down a job without worrying about getting fired, cis people are suddenly able to express themselves in a larger variety of ways. Once you have women being able to be powerful and more aggressive without being labeled a bitch or being criticized because they're acting too much like a man, once that whole idea starts becoming dismantled, then even men get to be more free in their expression. Suddenly you're able to have men that act more soft, gentle, or caring and not be criticized as a sissy or less of a man or acting like a girl. Basically, when we support the rights of people that do not fit into the gender binary or support gender as becoming something that is more fluid, then everyone benefits. Gender rights are human rights. Feminism is for everyone. Trans activism and advocacy helps us all. What can we do about all this? Honestly, the most important thing that we can do is talk about it. We can spread these ideas, we can be more aware of these ideas, and we can help each other grow as a society. The great thing about culture and democracy and the way our species has evolved is that no one told us what to do. We weren't forced to do any of it. We made who we are, and we can change that. We can progress, we can develop, we can grow. And we can make that happen. Am I advocating for a society in which we all shave our heads, wear gray monk robes, and walk around all looking the same? Absolutely not. Expression is exciting. Difference is what makes humanity thrive. I love when people look different. I love seeing people with different types of expression. What I don't love is when those types of expression are narrowly constrained into social categories that only serve to limit certain people and empower other people. Gender is used for certain people to make money and take advantage of other people, which I'm going to talk about in my next video about consumerism in the beauty community. If we can just see gender for what it is, which is a big imaginary socially constructed thing, then our acceptance of others is going to expand, and our acceptance of ourselves and our own identities is going to expand and grow. And I think that society, that future society, looks just as diverse and amazing and beautiful as ours does today, except those diverse and beautiful bodies in the future are happier, healthier, and safer. I'm going to be talking with a lot more people about gender issues in future videos, but I wanted to refer you to 3 specific creators on YouTube that I think are really fascinating when it comes to talking about gender and dealing with these issues. First and foremost is Kat Black. She's an amazing social justice YouTuber, creator. She's absolutely fabulous, and she has amazing articulate thoughts about gender, and especially about the intersectionality of gender, race, and lots of other issues. Gender doesn't exist on its own. Gender is something that interacts with all these other things, and it's really great to see people talking about that as openly and as articulately as Kat does. Next, I want to talk about Anita Sarkeesian. Anita Sarkeesian is kind of the figurehead at the center of Gamergate. If you haven't heard about this, Gamergate has been this massive online scandal of women in the gaming community being unbelievably harassed, getting death threats, discriminated against, just having their lives basically destroyed by internet trolls. And Anita Sarkeesian is kind of the epicenter of a lot of that anger. All she did was make a phenomenal series of videos on her channel Feminist Frequency about how video games and media often misrepresent women. These videos are absolutely phenomenal if you're interested in gaming or pop culture in any way, but there also are some amazing videos on this channel that are just helpful for just learning basic ways of being. For example, there's this amazing video which is 5 things men can do to help support women. I highly, highly recommend for everyone to watch this video. If you're a woman and you have men in your life, show this video to them. It's hugely important and it's a huge part of the solution. The last channel I want to talk about is More Ehrlich's channel. This amazing creator has a series called Says Me. I know a lot of you out there are parents or expecting parents, and you often hear about all these amazing intellectual conversations about gender, and you're very interested in them, but you kind of wonder, how do I talk about this with my kids? How do I raise a child in a world to help them be more open and not discriminate against others and like be a good person? Well, Says Me is this phenomenal series for children that teaches you how to kind of discuss these issues and grow. It's hosted by Charmin Ultra, who's a phenomenal drag queen in Brooklyn. She's a phenomenal host and has these amazing guests. If you watch any of this show, just be prepared to have your heart warmed. Every time you see like a crazy old politician spouting shit that just makes you feel horrible to be an American or a person, watch these amazing kids on this show and feel hopeful for the future of our society. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this series. Please let me know if there are any other topics you want me to address in this series and in this format. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to keep updated on new videos that I post, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And please feel free to share this with your friends, anyone that you feel would benefit from watching this video. And thanks so much and have a great day. I'm Kimberly Clark. Bye.